Almost there.
Whatever you need to do.
Yep, we're good now. Yeah, I just had to make sure I was muted on the other site so I don't get the echo. But yeah, we are live. So thank you so much, John, for joining me today. This is another episode of Conscious Conversations. And John, so I would love to know, John, is you describe yourself as the facilitator. So
Mhm.
first, I would love to know more about that. And um, as I know it from the definition, facilitation is to make things easier. So please share with us more about that.
Mm. Thank you, Leigh. Yeah, sure, facilitator. So my business coach recommended I call myself that, and I was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna roll with that and see what that feels like for me. Like just try it on like a jacket or something in my wardrobe. A facilitator for me is someone who can bring other people together and allow this exchange and this dynamic between people to unlock more of their possibility, more of what's available to them. Uh, it also um, slides into like a coaching space as well, where I set people like goals or deadlines or ways of stepping outside of their comfort zone, and then also into a mentor space where when people ask me like, oh, how have you got to where you've gotten to, John, and I can mentor them in that space. But for me, it all sits under the umbrella of a facilitator and creating communities and groups of people to explore with each other. They're all not that much different. So whatever the projection or whatever the differences that they perceive, we're all very similar to each other. And just by creating a dialogue and a space to explore that non-condemnationally, judgment is part of the human condition, so condemnation. So without condemnation, just with the free-flowing ability to explore their own personalities, whatever's emotionally present for them, we just become more unified and more individuated in that process. So that's what I put under the banner of a facilitator or the facilitator.
Wow, so it sounds like you do a little bit of everything there. And it's always so interesting to me when you talk about how we're all so similar, because I mean we really are. And um, I'll be sitting with people and I'll share with them some things that I'm picking up about them. And they're like, how did you know that? So, and I always say, because I've been there too. We all kind of go through very similar things. And I think that's also why it's really important to show up and share ourselves and to share our stories, because we're relating to each other. And when we do that, we form that connection. And because there's always people out there that are going through the same thing that we are. We're never alone. We're never alone.
Yes, never alone. And you're totally correct. As soon as you share, like whatever's present for you, I see there's like a sense of relief in the other person, like their shoulders drop. It's like, oh wow, like I thought I was the only one that was suffering, or I thought I was the only one. And then when they see themselves in you, this air of relief and access to grief and access to joy. So when you can clear that joy, when you clear that grief out of the way, it's like, oh, there's so much more joy accessible to me. Like, I'm not alone. Like, oh my, thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for seeing me. So
Yes.
yeah, yeah,
'Cause that's what, at the end of the day, that's what everybody wants, right? Is
yes.
to be seen and
To be
heard and
seen.
validated. Yes, absolutely. Well, so I asked John before we came on if there's anything that had been on his mind recently, and he brought up a few really, I mean, they're all very important topics. So I would love to get us kicked off with discussing transparency and honesty. Can you talk a little bit more about that and what's been on your mind?
Transparency and honesty. In the context of like my business is for an example here. So when I'm approaching someone or speaking to someone, I can feel like, do I need to be upfront with you about why I'm talking to you? And then sometimes there can be a suspicion around like, guys, is John just talking to me because he wants like business from me? Does he want to like get money from me? And I've seen this in my life when someone's approached me. Like someone was friend me on social media, and I'd be like, okay, cool. I'm just gonna see them there, and they're just gonna be there. And all of a sudden, they send me a link to some webinar or something, and they haven't really engaged with me at a human level or enrolled me in what they're wanting to sell or why they see there's a benefit in there for me. So in this honesty and transparency, I see um, there's a way of expressing ourselves unapologetically, which if we could just own that there's something that's inside, that we want something or we want to give something, um, allows for an efficient communication, and an increase in trust. What I see in leadership in particular is a lapse of trust. Like in politicians, like, well, why do you want to be a politician for? Like, and who's paying you, and who's in your ear and whispering things of what you need to do? Like, are you really your own person? Do you really have your own values and truths and integrity? And and then in that honesty and transparency, I see in integrity is part of that. So um, I just recently finished a personal development program, and integrity is a huge theme. And it's more about integrity with the self and integrity with somebody else when you make a promise to someone, whatever that looks like. So like, hey, um, I'm going to clean the kitchen today, and then you don't clean the kitchen. It's like, okay, cool. You know, I didn't do that, and then whoever you promised that to, I'm saying, hey, look, I didn't do it today. What I'm putting in place is, you know, I'm going to clean it tomorrow. I'm going to make sure there's a window for me to clean it tomorrow. And just acknowledging that, hey, it's okay to not do things that you said that you're going to do. Um, when there's a loss of power, which corrodes at your identity, is when you say something and you don't do it. But we can restore that integrity quite quickly by just saying, like, I feel crappy for not doing cleaning the kitchen. Like, hey, I feel like I've let you down. You know, that might leave you with like, I'm unreliable, you know, and I don't want that relationship between us. So what I'm putting in place is I'm going to clean the kitchen, or next time I make a promise, I'll make sure that I put space in place, or I won't allow myself to get distracted. So that's where honesty and transparency comes in for me. I think in the context of leadership, when it doesn't necessarily need to start with like people who are in authority. It can start with anyone. Like it can start in the family. It can start in your small communities or your women's circles, men's circles, or whatever it is that you is part of our community. It's, hey, I said I'm going to do this, and I haven't. So I think that starts from the bottom up and the top down to create a world where it's okay to like be a fail on whatever you've said, and also be able to restore the integrity around your word.
Yes, 200% to all of what you just said. So I'm so curious, what about the person on the receiving end of, like, let's say you're in a relationship with your friendship, whatever, and that person didn't keep their word and they're not holding integrity. Um, and they don't, they don't recognize it or they don't say anything about it. If you're on the other end of that, like, then what?
That's a great question. I see this come up with people, especially if, like, in a relationship or friendship, there can be a resistance to want to agitate the relationship. I don't want to cause a fuss. You know, maybe they'll probably get to it at some point. Um, there's a pretending going on, so you need to address the pretending. So I've been pretending that it's been okay, that you said you're going to do something and you haven't, and what it leaves me with is like, I can't rely on you. Or there's some things that you promise that are just like you're unreliable, and then I want to distance myself from you. I don't want to bring you close. Like, what else are you going to let me down on? Like, are you going to be there when I really need you to be there? And just speak to whatever's present for you, and that's transparency and honesty again. It's like, okay, hey, I know you promised we were going to catch up in a week's time. It's been a week. You haven't messaged me. So like, what's going on? Like, are you okay? Like, what's present? So it's on both sides. So whoever's like been the recipient of the promise needs to be aware of, like, hey, there's a there's a disturbance in the force that needs to be addressed, and you speak to that, whatever that disturbance is. which creates a conversation for both people around what's there.
Yeah, and I think that can be so difficult sometimes because you don't want to like ruffle the feathers, right? Um you don't want to make the other person uncomfortable, right?
Totally.
And I think it's like it's so important to consider this because we only have so much energy. You know, we can only have so many relationships. Our time is precious, our energy is precious. So, you know, if we have someone, maybe it's not even a close relationship, maybe it's someone we just met and you know they've already broken their word on something they said they were going to do, that makes me less likely to want to continue like investing any more energy in that, you know? So
Totally.
yeah.
Yeah, I totally hear that. And I'd say you're also not alone in that. Um, and what I hear, because I've done that in the past as well. And for me, like there's a little energy tether that I see towards this other person. And it's like, hey, like, am I not of value to you? Like, what is that? Like, how come you said that to me? Like, did you really want something? Do you actually really want to be my friend? So in that, I feel an energetic loss by not getting complete on that relationship. So
Yeah.
for me, it's like, okay, I'm just going to get complete in it. Like either you want to be in my life or you don't want to be in my life. It's like a slow, a trickly energy drain of like, hey, look, it's okay if you don't want to be in my life. Like I'm not fussed either way, but the people that I do want in my life, I want to be transparent, honest, and in integrity. So it's cool if you don't want to be that. Hey, no harm, no foul. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've noticed something so interesting, and I don't know if this is true for everyone, but I found with me personally, um, I need to actually say the things, and it's like if I just let it go, then that's going to keep on coming back into my life, whatever that type of energy is or situation. Like I have to actually say the thing to the person and say no, like this is not okay, and like you're talking about. And I know everybody's different. I've talked to some other people that say like they don't have this same scenario, but with me, like that is part of my life lessons, is you know standing up for myself and saying what I need to say to people even though it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's powerful, Leigh, and it takes a lot of courage to go there and say that and get that closure. So, like, I want to say that like there's a level of awareness that's required to be aware of, like, hey, I need to say this. It's going to be uncomfortable, and when you say that no, like it creates a huge vacuum for yes of like what's going to get sucked into that yes now. It's like, oh, like all these new possibilities that just pop out of nowhere because you said no to something. So yeah, I think it takes guts to be able to have those uncomfortable conversations and go, hey, no.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I feel like not many people are doing this. So you know, that's obviously why these behaviors are continuing, because like no one is actually saying or doing anything about it. So maybe yeah, we might have to be like the first one to say it, and then maybe that person will start to think about it and do some self-reflection. Maybe they won't, that's
Maybe they
okay,
won't.
right?
Yeah.
But maybe they
So
will.
that maybe they will, and I think it's about the individual. So it's about you. Like, what do you want? And I think when I honor just what I want, it gives other people permission to honor what they want, and there can be a growth phase there. Like John's being so selfish right now. It's all about him. It's like, yeah, I am, and like I'll take care of you. Like when you see like when someone really owns what they want, it's like, hey, cool, yes, that's a heck yes. I'm gonna be in that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna support you and whatever. I'm gonna be there. My yes is a yes and my no is a no, and then there's a trust in that comes in that, which is you can't forge that any other way without having that yes is a yes and your no is a no.
Yeah, it's a hell yes and a hell no. That's what I like to say. So I'm curious, what do you think makes people not be honest or not be transparent?
That's a great question, Leigh. That's a great question. At the core root of it, I think there's fear, and then above that there's like rejection. There's like layers of codependence. There's all these other things which come off of fear, which can be based on your life experience of Like, am I once important? And then also the fear of not hurting somebody else. So if you've been hurt by someone saying no to you, they can be like, oh, I don't want to say no to anyone. Oh, I don't want to have these these uncomfortable conversations with people because I hate them I hate it when people come to me and I need to be uncomfortable, whatever in whatever they're feeling. So there can be a like a reluctance to sit in the discomfort because we don't like sitting in the discomfort. And yeah, and I see that in relationship. I see that in like student teacher relationships. I see this in all kinds of relationships where there's a discomfort around, hey, no, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to do that. So, you know, you need to be obedient. You need to do what I say, because if you don't, then you're not going to get the A plus. You know, you're not going to get the trophy of being obedient. So I think there's a reinforcing of behavior from systems. I think either my screen's frozen or your screen's frozen. Check to see if it's mine. Yeah, I should be good. I think I'm good. Hmm.
Oops,
Welcome back.
sorry.
You're all right. You know, the internet, you know, what are you going to
Such a roll.
do?
I was like, dang it. Yeah, but so the last thing I think I heard was you talking about how like a student teacher relationship and
Yeah.
how you have to be obedient to get the A.
It's perfect. Yeah. So yeah, in relationships, so you have, now I'll go back even further. So uh, like a mother's child relationship where it's like you got to say no. Like, you have to say no to things. Like, no, you can't have the cake. No, you can't go play right now. No, it's time to sleep right now. So there's this um, intuition to do something, and then when you get those no's, and it can combine in with shaming as well. So it's like there's a reluctance to speak your truth or ask for what you want or be in that conflict because your shelter could be at risk, your food could be at risk. There's a primal
Yes.
survival mechanism there.
Yes.
When you confront that connection, it's, oh my God, I could be cast out of the tribe. Mum
Yeah.
doesn't love me anymore if I'm not obedient, which plays into like school, which plays into like university and the workforce, where it's like there's a reluctance to speak up and shake the feathers because it ties in with this primal fear that's in the body, about speaking up and, yeah, getting uncomfortable.
Yes, absolutely. I totally agree with that. I think and this is something that is not discussed enough, I don't think, is that many of us, I know many of us have very similar programs in the way that we were raised and brought up. And, I know our parents were just doing the best that they could with what they knew and the tools that they had. And also, we were not given the opportunity to be our authentic selves and, to say no and to speak our truth and to have needs and to have wants and all these things that make the authentic individual, right? And I think this is why so many people are out there searching for answers, and because they're so like disconnected from who they actually are and they don't actually know.
Mm.
And this has kind of been my journey, is coming home to myself. And a lot of people in the so-called spiritual community, I think that we are just coming home to ourselves and remembering who we really are. And that remembrance is so beautiful, and just shedding all of the layers of the limiting beliefs, the fears, the lies, the illusions, all the things that aren't really real. And yeah, I'm very grateful and blessed to be in that position.
Yeah, and I love what you shared there. Like, and like parents are doing their best with what they have. Like, it's only been like 2 generations ago. Like my grandparents were in the war, so I was like, okay, cool.
Hmm.
They came out of the war. There was like no mainstream child psychology. There was no perfect way to raise your children. Like my dad and my mum. My mum's a therapist, and however, my dad hasn't done much personal development. So there's like I have a dialogue, I kind of a dialogue with my mum, and she understands like, hey, like I did my best. My mum did her best with what she had and what she understood. So like I have a huge amount of respect for that, and my dad as well. Like he doesn't see the importance of this kind of personal development work. And I totally, and in the context of the spiritual communities, yeah, we're all returning back home to ourselves. I totally agree with that. And in that, I think we're at a bit of a tipping point and a crossroads now with, hey, like now it's we need to speak. Like it's all great to avoid confrontation, like because it's uncomfortable. But that feeling is important. That there's a strength and resilience that comes from being able to speak to whatever's present to us and being able to say the no or say like, hey, this is unsuitable for me, or I don't need to be here right now, or I've had enough, I feel complete, or let's go do whatever it is. Like there's a well, I want to say it's in the context of like consent and just speaking to whatever that is present for us emotionally, whether that's in the full emotional spectrum and being able to own it. Like, hey, I feel. Yeah, but I love what you're saying there about coming home to ourselves.
Yeah, who we've always been this whole entire time.
Yes.
This whole time.
The whole time, the
Um,
cosmic joke.
the whole time. Yeah. And I think there was like a part of me when I was really young, like I somehow kind of like knew that. Um, I think children are so much more intelligent than we give them credit for.
Yes.
And yeah, there was this part of me that kind of knew that back then. But yeah, that's an entirely different story. But yeah, like I think we are at this tipping point, especially with the current events and what's going on in the world. And you're right, like it's so easy to just hole up by yourself or be a hermit in the woods. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are times when that is what I want to do. I'm serious. Like, I'm just like, okay, I'm just going to get a cabin out in the woods, out in the country. Like, screw all this. you know? I have definitely thought about that at times. So, like, I understand why people do that. I totally
Yeah.
get it. I totally get where they're coming from. But, also, like, there isn't the discomfort, but then there also isn't the growth and the learning and the lessons and all those things that come with that, right?
Totally.
But this time is just so it's so interesting. It's just like,
It is.
what's gonna happen?
What's gonna happen? Yeah, I love it. I love what's happened over the past like 24 months. It's forced people to come in and look inside themselves and like question death, question authority, question why they're here, question like do I want to go back to the job that I've been doing for like however many years? Like it's really been a shake up of like what am I here for? And in the context of spiritual communities, like there can be this sense that there's something that's wrong. There's something that's wrong, and then I also see a rush to try and look for the answer of why it's wrong. And in that rush to look for the answer, there can be a conflation of like a spiritual truth and a material truth. Like there can be an element of like a going down a rabbit hole of conspiracy, which depletes like your energy field. Like when you look at some of that stuff, like you can be in there for like hours and hours and
Oh, it
hours.
goes
It
really
goes
deep.
really deep. It's like, well, hi, is this really serving me right now? Do I want to walk away from my computer or whatever it is into the world with this energy of like all of that? So yeah, there's It is. You're right. It's a very interesting time for self-reflection and inner work, and then when to bring that out into the external. When like is this divine what I'm saying right now? Is this aligned in what I is this coming from love, or is it coming from fear? Is it coming from is what I'm about to say going to empower this person? Um, and is it my truth? Like, can I hold that other person in compassion, even though what I could say could ruffle their feathers? So there's a walking this middle path, which I think is very prominent at the moment.
Absolutely. And I'm happy to see it also. And the part that you said where there's something wrong, what specifically, when people say that, what do they mean?
Great question. So I think there's an inner knowing that something is amiss. There's something that's incorrect in the human condition, like how we're operating
Mhm.
right now.
I see.
um,
I see.
and then depending on what we feed ourselves with, like whatever comes on mainstream media or whatever articles we're being fed from social media, I think there can be like reasons attached. Oh, this is why I'm feeling this way. This is why I'm feeling this way. And then there's a kind of like a point cloud of like, hey, cool. If I just fix all these things or get all these things sorted, I'm not going to feel this discomfort right now or this wrong feeling, because the wrong feeling is quite uncomfortable.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
So um,
Yeah.
so like if I can just fix the world, fix all these people, all these corrupt, all the politicians and all this, the doctors, and it's like it's actually yes and. So there's something about the wrongness internally. Like what am I doing that's out of alignment with me right now? Like are my relationships in integrity? Like is there people that I need to clean up my environment of communication with? Like is there pollution between us that we need to clear and sort that, because that creates the web, that clears the web, smooths
Yes.
out the web for community. So okay, now we're all together,
Yes.
like we're all one functioning unit. We're not like all merging together to like, oh, if we all just fix that one problem over there, the world is going to be fine. I can go back to my life of being out of integrity. It's like, no, let's all start at the home, start and spread out, which I think is the perfect time to do that right now.
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. Oh my gosh. I have so much I want to say to this. Where do I start? Yeah, like I've noticed a lot of people who don't want to do the self-reflection, and they just want to keep on living their lives out of integrity. They're like, oh, I'll just, take the pill or the thing that shall not be named, and yeah, I'll just go back to my life, right? And just go back to normal. And when I hear people say that, I am almost in like disbelief that those words are even coming out of their mouth. Like, normal? Are you serious right now? Like, it was never normal. It was never okay. Like, there are homeless people on the street. There are people dying of hunger. And you want to go back to that? I don't. I don't, because I envision a world where that does not exist. And I know, my inner knowing tells me that it's a possibility. And it also tells me that it's going to happen.
Yes.
So
Same. Yeah.
yeah, so I hold that vision in my heart. And how you talk about the web, and like I say, I tell people that self-love is the most important thing you can do for the world, for the entire world, because it starts with you and then it ripples out. So that's that web that you're talking about. And going back to tribes and community, and that's kind of, I've talked to so many people, John, about this. Like, we're all getting the same vision, the same download is coming in for everybody. And I know there are intentional communities that exist. I've been looking at some of them, and I'm probably going to visit a couple. But I think that the world is such a different place than, like, a lot of these communities were formed 10, 20 years ago. This is the visions that people are getting are different, though. Like, the types of communities that people want to form, they're different. um and of course, I don't know all the communities out there that exist, but it's always, there's people come together with like a communal garden, growing your own food, living sustainably with like solar and wind energies. And there's always a healing center. There's always a healing center where there's various modalities from, yoga to breath work to plant medicine to whatever you want to do, right? And I've just talked to so many people that have this same vision, and I'm like, let's do it. Let's let's make this happen. I think we're gonna see a lot of these communities popping up over the next 5 to 10 years.
Yes, and I'm excited to see that too. Like I live in a house with 6 other people from various generations. I've got a Hungarian who's in his early 40s. I have a grandma who's in her early 50s. I have two guys that are in their 20s. I have another guy that's in his early 40s with like 2 kids. There's me and my partner. So we're already in like a community house. And I got into this place just before COVID, just before the lockdown. And I'm so blessed to be here. Like I feel so blessed to be here in this house. And I have a friend of a friend who's visited a lot of communities around the world, and to see like what works, what doesn't work. And I asked him, so how do they handle conflict resolution? And he said, yeah, that's a linchpin in all these communities, is when conflict comes up, like how is it addressed? Because what I see is like an intellectual way of dealing with conflict in some of these communities, in intellectual ways of relating, where there can be like the compassionate, like an intellectual compassion of like, oh, I can't say anything to hurt somebody else. I can't say this to hurt this other person because it's actually, you're a part of me and I don't want to hurt you. And if I'm saying something to you, like I'm hurting myself, blah, 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 blah. There's a really important need to express emotion in a constructive and honest way. So for me, one of the modalities that I was trained in is core energetics and bioenergetics, which is where there's a raw expression of whatever's present, and that can be hatred, it can be rage, that can be wrath. It doesn't need to be directed at the person because it is your own, but it needs a discharge of it, whatever that looks like. Otherwise, it comes out in malevolent ways. There's secrets, there's gossip, there's all these other things that this become part of the human condition. Like it's in our DNA. It's part of like an old programming, like a firmware in our human nature of like, okay, survival, 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 gossip, gossip, gossip. Let's this person over here, they're really annoying, aren't they? Yeah, they're really annoying. So you slowly push this person, you kind of conspire to remove people from groups. So if you can be honest and transparent and be integrous in what's coming up for you, it changes the paradigm of what it means to be human. So conflict resolution in these communities, you can't run from it. Like you can find someone, you can find groups of people that have a common interest. Like I like playing tiddlywinks or snakes and ladders. Yeah, let's all play tiddlywinks and snakes and ladders. And then there'll be one person or 3 people that, hey, that's not how you play tiddlywinks. And there's a conflict. That's not how you play snakes and ladders. There's a conflict. So that needs to be resolved in a co-creation to see a higher vision, like bringing people together and know that there's going to be many iterations of conflict and what it looks like and what the community looks like. Because it can be an effort to form a community. And sometimes communities need to die in order for new ones to be formed. Like it's just that cycle of life. It's like, it's okay. Like the dream is still there. The essence of the community is still there. It's now just going to take another form, and that's okay. So yeah, I hear what you're saying, and I love it.
Yeah, the conflict resolution is definitely, well, I'm gonna say probably the most important aspect for sure, because there's always going to be conflict, always. Like you have all these different people with these totally different realities, totally different, lenses of which they perceive things, and you could take the same event, and one person is going to perceive it a totally different way than the other person, and they both saw the same thing. So but I think I've been thinking a lot about this, and I think that coming up with some, I don't know what I want to call them, coming up with some, maybe some ideals, or like a core belief system. Not to say like everyone needs to believe the same way, but maybe like 3 or 5 principles, like for example, taking personal responsibility and, owning your stuff, like owning what is actually your stuff, like that is really important. And I see a big division in humans with people that do that and people that don't. People that want to just blame other people and be in victim consciousness versus, being the creator of their own realities and taking responsibility for things. So I think there's definitely like some core values or beliefs that maybe like people could be kind of like aligned with and on the same page with, that I think would be really helpful.
Totally agree. Totally agree. As you were speaking then, I don't know if you're familiar with like some of the darker aspects of like what's been going on in the world. And for me, I am attracted to understanding what everyone's aiming towards. Like, oh, there's like a group of people that are up to no good. Okay, why are they up to no good? Like, what's really going on here? I like really this. I overturning stones is a theme for me. Like, okay, what's under this stone? Like everyone's saying there's something under this stone that needs to be looked at, or it's causing all this trouble. Okay, what's really there? Let's have a look. So for me, like yesterday, I took it upon myself to explore the Church of Satanism,
Oh,
and
that's a
that
fun
was
one.
that was a fun one. And I was like, oh my god, there's actually like there's lots of umbrellas of what Satanism is. And when you were speaking there, the tenets of Satanism speaks to exactly that. And the irony in what I see in the spiritual communities is like there's a reluctance to see, well, what am I running from? Like, what is this energy that I'm running from? I want to like shame or condemn. And I really unpacked it, because what I hear is people that have grown up in like a Christian household or a Christian dynamic or paradigm, where you have like God and the devil and then Satan and all these other like angels, these good and bad forces. And then when you start to overturn the stones of like, well, what's really here? Can I if I'm a divine being and I'm protected, and like my is a childlike curiosity in me that doesn't know good from bad, like how would I look at this and know that there's an adult that's got an inner adult that's also got my back? How do I explore this? So I agree, there needs to be like core tenets or core um, principles or values around that you need to come back to. And same thing in relationship, right? Like, why are we together? What are we doing? What are we creating together? Like, what are we doing? Like, what do we want to see for our children or our children's children? Like, what are we creating? So yeah, totally agree. Totally agree.
Yeah, but I'm super excited though, because I get a little impatient with it, honestly.
Me too.
I'm like, let's just do it already. Let's just everybody just come on. Like what are we doing?
You're right. I think some of us are really ripe. We're like, yes, let's do this. Let's
I'm
like,
so ready. I'm so ready. I'm ready for everything to burn down at this point. I'm like, let's just get it over with. Let's light it on fire.
let's just start again. That's it. Let's do it. Come on. And I agree. And then there could be another iteration of a shakeup that's coming. Like, people
I
still don't
think
get it.
there will be.
It's just that people still don't get it. Like what you said before. Like, yeah, I'm just gonna take this thing and go back to my ordinary life. It's like, are you insane?
No,
Like, that's
no,
not
no,
like,
no, no.
how can you not how can you speak of like autonomy and like sovereignty and like I'm in charge of my life, and like how can you just like, oh, I have to do it because of this? It's like, no, if you have the faith, you'll be provided for. Like, put up your hand, I need help. Like, some people will come. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. You have to ask.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Have to ask.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely, well, I'm not gonna say definitely because I'm not a psychic. So I'll give you that disclaimer, but I just have this intuition, and I have this feeling that something is going to happen. Something else is going to happen.
Yeah,
That's
I
different.
agree. Yeah, I agree. We've kind of halfway got the lesson learned, and we haven't quite got there yet. So, and I can see like a fragmenting
Yeah.
of the population of humanity, which is fine. Like if I see everyone as a soul, it's like, hey, cool. Like the soul, your soul's just not ready yet, and that's fine. Like well, it's okay. Like it's all gonna work out in the end. But we're actually going this way because this is the
Sure.
love way. This is what's correct. Like this is about being
Yeah.
your own divine being. This is about being sovereign and growing and taking responsibility for your life. So I think it's all going to work out. But you're right. I'm not a psychic either, and my knowing says there's something that we're all preparing for. The people that are doing the work are creating those containers, the healing spaces, because they're going to be needed. Like it's going to be it'll be a shock to a lot of people, and so it's okay, cool. We've been preparing for this. Like we know, like it's disorientating, right? Like it's okay. Like we've got you. Like it's okay to feel this grief that you've been lied to or whatever it is. It's fine. Like it's okay. There's no need for us to gloat about it. It's like,
Yes,
yeah, cool. Like we get it.
absolutely.
We get it. We understand. Like, well, of course you're lost. Why wouldn't you be lost? Like I would have been lost. So yeah.
Absolutely. Because I think that what's happened so far up to this point has not been enough to ruffle the feathers of the collective, so to speak, like to shake them up enough to, prompt their dark night of the soul or whatever it is. There's so many different ways that this happens.
Mm.
With some people, it's just like a spontaneous thing. But it's we're not like you said, we're maybe about like halfway there or something. So,
and it
but
might
I
and it might
did,
and it might come from those individual conversations of like us ruffling other people's feathers and saying no to people, or like, hey, like, did you wanna, like, otherwise no, like, yeah, because that's where the discomfort is, right? So like for me, it's very easy for me to go, something out there is going to happen, and then it's going to be okay. But for me, it's like, okay, cool, what's going on in my home that I'm not speaking to? Like what's going on with my housemates I'm not speaking to? And just giving myself permission to not visualize like this worst case scenario or whatever this fear is. Like I have the capacity to speak with love and compassion and curiosity. It's not about like judgment and then condemnation. It's like, hey, like this is going on, like this makes me feel this is going on, this is how I see it affecting me and the housemates or whatever else. So yeah, I think there's a loving way to do it that will be readily received. And then I can't be attached to how it's received. It's like I don't know how they're gonna respond. I don't know. But I've got to stay true to myself and what's present for me.
yeah, and that's not really your, you know, that's not your responsibility how they take it or how they respond to it, as long as you are coming from a heart space and from a place of love and kindness and respect and compassion and all those things, as long as that's there, they can take it however they want. They can get offended, they can take it personally, they can, or maybe not. Maybe, it'll be this, beautiful experience where they'll actually be like, hey, you know what, you're right. And,
Yes.
you know, we can't make assumptions
Yeah.
about how things are going to turn out and how conversations are going to turn out. So, the possibilities are they're limitless. Anything can happen, really.
Yes.
Anything can happen. Yeah. And, with, not to sound, I don't want to sound like, something horrible is going to happen, because I'm not saying that at all, but something is going to happen. I just don't know what it is.
Yeah, no, I agree.
you
Something is going
know
to happen. Yeah, I don't know
it
what
could
it
it could
is.
be
Yeah.
like this amazing thing that's not, we don't perceive as bad at all. It could be that too. And I think that, like, we as a collective are still forming whatever that is. Like, we're still, it's like it shifts day to day, minute by minute. It's, who knows? I have no idea. I don't know. All I know is anybody that says they know, they don't know. They
All I
don't
have
know.
is I have a feeling. It's like there's something else, and it's unshakable. But yeah, there's something else. I just know I just got to keep on doing what I'm doing, and it'll
Yeah,
come regardless. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, just trusting the universe, trusting yourself, trusting that everything is working out as it's supposed to and for the highest good of everything. So, you know, when you get to that place, really, you can really let go of a lot of the fears. And not to say that, you know, you're not going to have any, like, they're not going to go away completely. Like, I still sometimes get nervous, like when I'm about to come on this YouTube channel. I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, like I'm putting myself out there. but I'm doing it anyway. Doing it
Great.
anyway.
I love it because you build that muscle, right? It's like a muscle. It's like you just keep building it. It's like, hey, you know, like I love going live. When's my next live? Like, yes, yes. And then you
Yeah.
get that pump, you get that juice, gets the
Oh
juices
yeah.
flow. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so fun for me. So fun for me just having people and relating and connecting and you know having you share with this community that's being built. And I think like the best thing for me is being able to support other people in letting them know that they're not alone,
Yes.
because that's YouTube has helped me immensely in that way. And so I want to also be in service in that same way for other people.
That's beautiful.
Because
Yes.
I know how lonely it can get at times. I know, you know, you think sometimes you're going crazy, your family thinks you're in a cult, or you know, just this it can be I mean, my family did. They totally did. They thought I was in a cult for a while. They're like, what?
Same.
The
But free
same?
cults.
Okay.
It's like, John, you're going back to back cults here. What are you doing? It's like, yeah, thanks. Thanks, fam. Thanks for the faith. Thanks for trusting me. Your brother and your son. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, like how long have we known each other? I don't know. Um it's like yeah, it's so astounding how you come in with like these different beliefs and different anything, and it's so like challenging and threatening to them that they're like, oh, there's got to be something wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. And to experience the world that way, it must be very suffocating for them. So like for me, like my tribe is not my blood family. My tribe is like my soul family. So it's like cool, yeah, like I have brothers and sisters and a mum and a dad, but um and it's a choice for me to want to nurture those relationships. Like, hey, like family, like dad, like this is going on for me with you, like mom, this is what's going on for me. Like my sisters, like right now, I'm out of communication with one sister and my other sister's family, there's tension there. So I was like, cool, like I want to mop that up because I want to have a connection with them. I want to have connection with my niece and that side of the family. So, and it's been about, you know, what's been going on in the world. You know, they made a decision and they wanted to push that decision on me. And so I'm not making the same decision that you did. So conflict. It's like, cool, can we just move past that now? Like, yeah, I'm allowed to have my own opinions. I'm allowed to have my body is my body. So and that's a challenging conversation to have, and I want it, you know, like I want that, I want to build that muscle of, hey, I value you, like I stand for you, like and I want you in my life in more than like this superficial, like let's all be happy at Christmas time. It's like I want genuine connection with you. um, yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, and have they been pretty receptive to those conversations?
No, no, it's so for me, I've just taken a break. I'm like, cool, I'm just gonna stop that for now and just allow to come into myself and not clutch at that. Um,
Yeah.
especially like what I speak to, like speaking to love and compassion and community. It's like, well, how can I speak to that if I'm not connecting with my family? You know, how can I give other people advice about connecting to their family if like I'm not connected to mine? So it's like, hey, I'm gonna take a break from that and just allow, like, there's a timing, there's a pace involved, there's a rhythm that's involved, and when I trust what's right for me, then those windows open, you know, and it's like, okay, cool, like now I have that conversation with my sister, or now I have that conversation with my dad, or whatever. But there's a pulse, and there's a part of me that wants to do it in my way, in my time, because I don't like sitting with the discomfort. It's like, hey, John, you got to sit with the discomfort. It's like, hey, okay, universe, I get it, ha ha ha, and then just and
Oh
then
yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm in the same boat. And you know, for me it's like I'm not gonna I'm kind of like I'm tired of trying to, how do I want to say this? I'm tired of trying so hard when the people on the other end don't, I'm not going to say that they don't care. It's just they don't want to meet me at the same place right now. That's what it is. And I have to be like, okay, that's fine. I can't make you, maybe someday you will when you're ready, and I would love that. That'd be great. But I shouldn't say but, and it's not right now, and that's okay. And that was really difficult for me to accept for a long time. I was like, no, we're supposed to be family. you know um but like you said, our true family is our soul family. And I think, anyone would be so blessed and fortunate to have soul family and to have people in their lives that truly, that see them and that speak their language, and you can just be like totally yourself with. And that's what I love about like this, is like I want people to just show up exactly how they are and say whatever they want, whatever is on their mind, because I think we all should be able to do that.
Totally agree. I love that vision, and I think it's correct. Like it's just correct. Yeah. I think then the more we show
So
up who
John,
we are, the better we get at it. So yeah.
yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. Well, I've loved our conversation. It's been so great. I love your energy and your presence. It's so like warm, and I can just like see the light coming from your body. It's such a radiating presence. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If people want to get in contact with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Through Facebook. So find me on Facebook. My John Kai Herbert is my handle, and then I've got like events, and my services are like on my bio link there. Yeah, just yeah. If it's correct, you'll just find me. Like it's people just come across me. But yeah, Facebook is the logical way. Go to Facebook and just look me up. Um, yeah, and then usually people ask me like, what do I do? And it's a challenging question for me to fill. There's a Swiss Army knife of a Swiss Army knife of like what I know and who I know. So if it's right for you, just come to me and we have a conversation about what's present for you. And sometimes it might be I refer you to somebody else. Like, hey, that's not what I do, but I know someone who's perfect for you. So
Yes.
I'm and also I'm not attached to working with people. It's like cool, either it's right or it's not. Like it's the trusting that first step. And if that's reaching out to me and saying, hey, John, like I'm attracted to you about something and I don't know what that is. And it's like, hey, cool, let's have a conversation. What's there for you? Like, is it family, career, like prosperity? Is it life purpose? Is there something spiritual that you don't understand? Like, is there a feeling that you have? Is there something? And we just unpack it and explore it. And then from there we go from wherever we need to go. But yeah, in sum, track me down on Facebook.
Awesome. And I have a feeling, John, that you're a man that wears many hats.
I have many hats, many shoes, many things,
Many
many
shoes.
things, many shoes. Yeah, many
Question, do
shoes.
you have more shoes than your partner?
No, my partner's it's interesting you say that. My partner, she works in hospitality, and for her, she's only recently started on this spiritual journey. She went to Brazil and sat ayahuasca a few years ago, and she
Ah,
and
yes.
in this journey of sitting with ayahuasca, she manifested she wanted this man in her life who's like me, and then so I've appeared in her life, and she's my partner's my housemate, so we never saw this coming, and so the relationships unfolded really beautifully. I'm encouraging her to just unfold in her own way. Like, don't follow my footsteps. Don't follow somebody else's footsteps. Just keep coming back into yourself. Like, you don't need to run off and do all the personal development things. Just do whatever's right for you. And in that, like, she recently manifested like this tantra program for free. Like, where she did this competition, and then she got like a few weeks worth of doing this tantra course, and she was like, oh, I created that. I said, yeah, you did. Like, there's ways of going about this when you just keep coming back into yourself and just trusting yourself. You don't need to do it the hard slog. So she's discovering her own gifts in her own way, and it's beautiful to watch that unfolding. So she's got
Yes.
some powerful gifts too. They're just blossoming at the moment. I'm allowing that to take its time. Yeah.
That's so beautiful. So beautiful. And I love how you're just holding space like that for her. And I have a feeling, you guys, that John would be an amazing person to work with. So yeah. So definitely reach out to him if you feel called. And John, do you have any special things coming up, any projects or programs or anything that people should know about?
Yeah, yeah. So I love the Gene Keys, which it's a side hustle for me. Like, I just love the Gene Keys because they speak to shadow, they speak to the gift, and they speak to like spiritual essence, and in a very heart-centered, compassionate way. So I every Sunday I host a free Gene Keys meeting where people can come to and they can contemplate some of the Gene Keys. It's a great tribe of people. And then on Facebook, I'm doing 3 lives a week just for people that want coaching. So if you want to come on and you got something that you want coaching on or clarity on, I can take you through that live. Those are the 2 main events I've got going at the moment. Otherwise, my Facebook, I put all of my events in there. Or you can just send me a message like, hey, John, like, add me to your mailing list or whatever. And I can email you whenever new stuff comes up. But Facebook, events, that's where I put my stuff.
I love that you're doing that. And that's like so, I feel like that's so generous and just like so, it's so giving. Like I love that you're doing that. That's awesome. And just a quick question about the Gene Key stuff. So would you recommend that people first read the book before they attend to just get like some base knowledge?
No, no. What I love about the Gene Keys is that you can just come and you can
Okay.
get something. Like, it's very accessible as opposed to other systems like a human
Mhm.
design or other things. Like, I feel Gene Keys is just, you can just walk off the street and get something out of a Gene Key. And if you have questions, then you can ask me, and I can tease apart things. But for the most part, you can rock up, and it's transformed into like a circle that people share their experience of. So the key, because it speaks to the shadow frequency, gift frequency, and the city frequency, people just speak to their experience of their life, and in that reflection, that's where the healing and the growth is. It's like in that community, in that group work, that's where the power's at. So if you don't understand the key, that's fine. The sharing is powerful. So yeah, it's entry level to an advanced level type. People could walk in and
That
just
sounds amazing. I'm gonna have to check this out for me.
please.
Yes, well, thank you, John. I have enjoyed our time so much today. Thank you so much for
You
your
too.
presence and coming on the channel.
You're welcome. And Leigh, I love your energy. It's been beautiful. Thank you for reaching out to me. Like, I love this. This is great. I love to do
Yes,
more.
this is what I live for. It's so fun. All right, John. Well, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. And I hope everyone that was